On today's show, I talked to Jeremiah Wilber, and it was a fun conversation. And there's several things that I want you to pay attention to. One is his definition of greatness is awesome. Two, he shares some very tactical things of what you can do on your pathway to greatness and how to help and inspire others. It's not difficult. And I know what it did for me was just a simple reminder of how simple things can have massive impact. The other thing that I want you to think about is when he talks about community and how important it is to live within, live with, understand. He's a retired Green Beret, was in the military for 22 years, and he talks about being a force multiplier. So as you're listening to today's episode, think about how you can be a force multiplier for positivity, for love, for kindness, and take action today. So ladies and gentlemen, Jeremiah Wilber.
It's not about the talent you have, but the mindset you bring to it. Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, hands down, has to be considered one of the most elite athletes to ever walk the earth. Why? Was it his athletic ability? Possibly. But for me, it was the mindset and the willingness to prepare better than anyone else is truly what made him elite. Today, our student athletes are facing challenges that haven't ever been seen before. So much social media, actively having to market themselves, the transfer portal, NIL, goes on, and not to mention they have to keep their grades up. Winging it and just seeing what happens is not the strategy needed, but it's what most athletes, coaches, and parents are using. You have to be intentional. You have to invest in skills that scale with life. With this highly competitive environment, how do student athletes separate themselves from the crowd? Be elite. Apart from having athletic statistics and grades, what does this mean? Well, let me introduce you to the Elite Edge 90-Day Program. The Elite Edge 90-Day Program is designed to assist the student athlete to develop the mental performance to have the self-discipline, self-awareness, and focus necessary to navigate internal and external challenges. The program will also assist in developing a real specific plan that will help them achieve their own individual goals. Each athlete will also be able to communicate their mission, vision, and values that make them unique. Imagine how this will be received when they are looking to differentiate themselves during the recruiting process. What will be learned in these 90 days can be used for the rest of their lives. This is scalable. I'm offering the Elite Edge program live or virtual, and one-on-one, group, or team options are available. So reach out today to learn more about the Elite Edge 90-Day program and Highlight Coaching and Consulting.
So I know that we've been trying to get together at least for over a year. And so we were going to do an IG live. So I went in and I ordered a War Party t-shirt. So,
yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
I love it. I get comments. It definitely generates conversation when people see it.
Nice. Yeah, that's the intent behind the artwork. I'm actually working on some designs right now. When I originally kind of thought of, the art behind everything, I wanted them to be pieces that spark conversation. So that's kind of the direction we're going in. I have a lot of really cool ideas and some artists I'm working with to get some more pieces out there that kind of, when you're walking around, to kind of spark conversation.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Well, I wanted to just introduce you to my listeners. I know that you have a big following. I don't know, and looking at a lot of the posts that you have, a lot of the people in my circle are liking your stuff. So I think we cross over pretty good. But my thing is I want to expose more people to you and what you do, because you're a fun follow on Instagram. I love how you bash yourself as an influencer.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
It is what it is, right? So this is Jeremiah Wilber. And honestly, for the longest time, I thought Blackbeard was your last name.
No, sir. No. I kind of had that call sign for a while. Like I got a little bit of shrapnel in my face. I forget what year it was. And then I just didn't shave. So even in the Army, I always had a beard. So
yeah. Yeah, always a rebel.
yeah, exactly. So I've kind of always been known as Blackbeard, just for that stupid reason, because I was the guy who didn't shave.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, you're a cowboy, retired Green Beret, endurance athlete. I don't know. Will you accept that? Because you do endurance events.
I try. I try. I'm kind of fat. I'm old, but yeah, I guess that's I'll go with that. Yeah.
There you go. Take it. Take it. I'm giving it to you, so you need to take it. Mountain Man, and you're the founder of the War Party movement and the co-founder of the War Party Ranch. So before we dive in, I like to play a little game. Would you rather?
Right on. Let's do
All
it.
right. So would you rather freeze time or go back in time?
I'd rather go back in time. I feel like I was born 200 years too late, anyways.
Yeah. And if anybody follows you on Instagram, they would 100% see exactly what you're talking about. I don't think I've seen anything with like that's gas powered in any of your videos.
Oh yeah, no, we have vehicles. I do drive a truck every day, but no, I would love to go back. I don't know. It just kind of, I've always felt that way, even when I was a kid, growing up, because my mother's native, my dad's a cowboy, just that mountain man culture, that mountain man life. In Canada, like the Metis people, that means, I want to say, I believe it means mixed, but it basically, they were like the French trappers, and the Cree created like their own band or tribe of people. And I kind of feel like I'm not Metis by any means, but I just use that as a descriptive word for people who might understand history or to kind of check that out. But I always just felt that way, like just how cool would it be to be a mountain man back in that day, be what I am, a mixed, half Indian, half white guy that lives off the land and with the people. So yeah, I would much rather go back in time, and if there was like a place I could go, it would be, probably like where I'm from, where I grew up in Montana, on the Madison Valley, or anywhere in kind of, the Bighorns, the Beartooth, the Bear Paw, the Teton Valley, the Wind Rivers, like just anything in that area, I think would be pretty amazing to see, especially, before man really put their fingerprint on it and change the landscape.
Yeah, because it's fairly untouched, right? Or no? Is it pretty?
I mean, there's still, some spots that are pretty untouched, but at the same time, I mean, you look at like the cattle industry, like Lonesome Dove, the reason why they pushed all those cattle up into Montana was because as the settlers came in, they just overhunted everything. Obviously, you had the buffalo, that was a government run, government facilitated, thing, as far as, they kill the buffalo, kill the Indian, remove their food source. So you had all these animals that lived in the plains, basically kind of be forced into the mountains, like elk, those were a plains animal originally. So as the settlers came in the late 1890s, early 1900s, they just overhunted everything. So they had to bring cattle in to basically kind of like make a balance so they could survive and have food to eat. So I think that, the landscape changed dramatically with man, even without roads and cities and everything else. So that's something I don't think a lot of people quite understand too. It's just, back in the day, like especially the white settlers, they didn't really follow the natives' path. They overpopulated, overhunted, and really created some devastation on the landscape.
That's awesome. No, thank you. I've never been to Montana. I want to go to Montana. We drove through, we went in, we took the kids to go see Mount Rushmore, but we flew into Denver and did a huge loop up from Denver up to Rapid City and then all back around, and then Custer National Forest. And so I can only imagine what Montana and even further out west looks like, because it's like your brain just, at least mine, went immediately back to what would this be like if you're in a carriage and you're coming across to brand new lands that nobody's ever seen before, or at least white man. Yeah, exactly.
Not very many.
Plenty of people had seen it and had enjoyed it, and then we ruined it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you definitely spend a lot of time in Lakota country, as far as South Dakota and Nebraska, and then originally, like when you come into Denver, that's like all Arapaho kind of originally Arapaho, and then south of that is kind of a mix between like Kiowa, Comanche, Apache. Yeah, so pretty cool area. Lots of really cool history in the West. That's still, I would say it's not alive, but a lot of people still try to honor it and remember it. And for the most part, especially the Western industry, they do a pretty good job of trying to be good stewards of the land and remind people of where we come from and whatnot. And so, when I say the Western industry, I think a lot of people too get misconstrued that natives are not cowboys and work agriculture and things like that. And it's super funny to me because especially in Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, like that's the typical job that a lot of my Indian friends and stuff do. They're all cowboys, and they work ranches and they have horses and they do all that kind of stuff. So it's still pretty. There are some cities, there's big cities out west, but at the same time, it gets real rural, real country really fast.
Yeah, and with really good people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They haven't been tainted and messed up. Okay, so we'll keep going because I want to come back to that because you've got my wheels turning in a completely different direction than I thought necessarily we would go.
No worries.
But would you rather live without music or TV?
TV. I can't live without music. I feel like music is one of those things where like you hear a song and it just takes you back to a certain moment in time in your life. And TV is stupid. I didn't even have a TV until I was like 17 years old. My mom just read us books and told us stories and played outside and beat each other up with sticks and threw rocks at each other and, did stuff kids should be doing. So
Yes.
yeah, TV is, it is
What's some of the stuff that you like to listen to?
Oh man, I'm everything except for probably like, the weird shit like jazz or like classical music. I would say my favorite, I love hip hop, but I am like a 90s, early 2000s kind of hip hop head. So like Outkast, it's probably my favorite band of all time. But I also love, like my dad was straight classic rock, Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, stuff like that. And then my mom was big into like Motown. So I think that kind of created, like garnered kind of a different sound, more like eclectic style of music that I like. It's funny, especially being a cowboy, like I absolutely despise country music. Like I hate probably 90% of all country music. Yes, I listen to a lot of country music, but I really like the kind of gritty, rockish kind of country. I'm not into like twangy, like anything from the 90s. Like I doubt there's a song from the 90s that I like. I don't even know. Like I said, that's not really a huge country dude. Because that's like a question I ask people all the time. One of my favorite things to ask is I'll ask people if me and you had to take a road trip from New York to San Diego. But there's two stipulations. We get to drive in your dream vehicle, your dream car, whatever it is. Money's not an option. But regardless of the year or make or model of that vehicle, there's a CD player. And when you put a CD in, it gets stuck and it will not come out. And so it's like, what? And I'll accept greatest hits, but it's like, what album are we listening to and what are we driving on our road trip from New York to San Diego?
Oh, that's interesting.
So I'm like really big into music. Like, and I like to kind of analyze people on what they want to drive and why, and then, like what they want to listen to. So I'm probably like a 1985 Ford F-250, like tricked out with like the Black Keys brothers, or yeah, it's what I'm feeling today.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same thing on the truck side, is just like a good, nice truck. And I love old ones. And then when you asked that question, I started thinking probably like a Beastie Boys greatest hits kind of thing.
Right
That's
on.
something that I can just listen to over and over. It just doesn't get old.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
Yeah, cool. All right. So would you rather hunt only, so you have to rather archery or a rifle?
Oh man, it's kind of a tough question because it's like, am I feeding my family off of this? Well,
we can exclude that.
Archery.
Okay. Why so?
Yeah. I feel like you have to be more connected to the land, to animal patterns. You're more one-on-one with those animals. You know, like every year archery hunters get killed by elk. I mean, you are my favorite thing about the mountains, and I have a really good friend named Paul DeGelder, and he is like this with the ocean. So we kind of have this talk back and forth about it. But I love how the mountains and I just say the ocean, so other people who might not experience the mountains like I do, um, they can swallow you at any time. You know, like you're an ant. You're so tiny. And I think as humans, oftentimes we we forget that. We get caught up in the hustle and bustle and you never feel vulnerable. You know, you're in your vehicle, you're driving around, you're doing things. You never really feel super vulnerable. Um, but when you're in the mountains, it doesn't matter how good you are, it doesn't matter how much training you have, how badass you are. Like if they want to take you, they're going to take you. And I love that about archery hunting because it's one more aspect of just how close you have to be to those animals. How how you have to sneak up on them and understand their movements and behavior. And then if you're in grizzly bear country or somewhere, there's mountain lions and wolves and all those things, it's just another added danger to what's going on. You're not the top of the food chain. You're holding a stick, two sticks, and a string, trying to make it happen, and you're definitely not at the top of that food chain.
Yeah, especially if something's charging you, then your adrenaline goes up, handshake, freeze.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and you get that regardless, even when you're trying
Yeah.
to harvest an animal, when you're putting a stock on a deer or an elk or a bear or whatever, I mean, you already have that intensity, and I think it just makes you feel like in those moments, it's kind of like what life's all about. Like it teaches you vulnerability. And then for me, as a soldier, it's like kind of the closest thing towards combat and that same kind of not really fear, but kind of, so I think that they mimic a lot of things.
Okay. And the last one, this one's fun. Would you rather have pizza or tacos?
Pizza.
What
I
kind of
mean,
pizza?
I don't care, dude. Tacos are one of those things where, like, I mean, I grew up, like Hispanic culture is like part of my background, and I know like authentic food. Also, went to high school in East Las Vegas. Um, it's so easy to mess up tacos, to just white it up, just make them as white as you can. Some Linda making tacos. But pizza, you can go to the gas station. Like pizza's never shitty. Like you can put tomato sauce on a piece of bread with some cheese on it and melted it in the microwave, and it doesn't suck. Like it's just pizza's amazing.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's easy to mess up tacos.
It's like French bread pizza. And then one of
Yeah,
my
there's just
favorites that just takes me back is just a frozen Tombstone pizza. I love it.
right on.
And
Yeah.
that's about as cheap as you can get.
Yeah, I mean, good pizza is amazing, but like I said, I'm still down with like that. Yeah, those 99-cent square deals you buy at the grocery store.
Sometimes you just gotta go nostalgic. It's like the party pizzas or something, the bagel bites.
Bagel bites, dude. Hell yeah, bagel bites. Just burn the roof of your mouth right off.
That's right. Then you're done for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, the thank you for playing along with that. I think that's a great glimpse into who you are, because I love to see the fun side. And the purpose of the podcast, it's called Pathways to Greatness. And the reason why I wanted to start it is so many people set out on this pathway and they set on this journey, so to speak. And so many people think that greatness, however you define it, is a linear path, and it's not. It's twisty and turny. And so my goal is to share stories like yours to encourage people just to not quit and just to keep going. Is they're going to have a twist, they're going to have rocks and chasms in front of them and all these things, but they just got to figure out a way around it and keep on the straight path. So that's the purpose of the podcast. So what I'd love to find out from you is how do you define greatness?
I think greatness is inspiring others and being part of something, being that's bigger than yourself, being part of a team that's bigger than you, where you can remove individuals of that team, and that team can still function. It can still be cohesive. It can still make a difference. So I think that sometimes people think of greatness as these big individual accomplishments and what people do, but I think when you really look at it, it's how you inspire others. And you can take an example of, like, everyone knows sports, so you can take like Michael Jordan or something, and yeah, was he great on the court? Was he the greatest basketball player ever play? Yeah. But when you look at what he really did, what his real accomplishments are, it's how many people he's inspired, to have this never quit mentality, to just be the best, to just work so fucking hard that nothing else in life matters, towards that objective. But he was also a part of a team, and he also inspired a lot of people to do, to whether it's play the game of basketball or to just go as hard as he did, at trying to be the best at something. So I think that that's kind of, a long way of saying, I think is defined by, in my opinion, would be to inspire others to be, to reach their full potential.
Yeah. And it's evident in what you do and what you do every day, because it's not about you. It's just you're a part of the system that's trying to help people and help encourage and give other people a chance. And when you were talking earlier, and we were talking about history, and you were sharing history, and the first thing I thought of is, we casually made light of the white man moving across the country. And it's almost, when you were talking about that, I thought of, they had, I guess, a very selfish definition of what greatness was. And that impacted so many people negatively. And so when you look back in history, and even your personal history, how was your definition shaped compared to, some of these other people who may have had a completely different definition of greatness?
So first, I think when you look at history and you look at what you're saying, as far as westward expansion, I don't necessarily think that people had a selfish definition. I think that they're, we're looking at this information age where we have so much technology and information at our disposal to understand. Like, you can read about another culture and understand them before you go into that culture. If you're taking a vacation to Brazil, like, you can understand about the Brazilian culture and types of things you'll see. I think that a lot of those people, a lot of them were immigrants. A lot of them were just trying to make a better life, just trying to do their best for their family. So I think in their definition of greatness, it was like a generational thing they were looking for. They were looking to start something that's bigger than them, so they could set their grandkids up, their great grandkids up for success in a new environment, in a new place. Yeah, a lot of things were lost by the wayside, like, was there, native land, and all these other things happened. And I guess there was like an injection of greed and money and gold, and all those kind of things were there. But when I think you really look at the true, like, who was the real settlers, like, who were these people, I don't necessarily think that they were selfish. I think they were actually trying to create something bigger than them, and sacrifice their life and their hardships to set their family up for generations to come. So that being said, I feel like I was very fortunate, where a lot of people don't have a very like, mixed background, and my family diversity, I think, was very key and instrumental in creating an open mindedness about people and culture that I don't think a lot of people necessarily have. A lot of people in the military experience it, or if you play sports, you might be able to really have hone mentorship and guidance and friendships from people that you would never in your life cross paths with. But for the most part, a lot of people just kind of stay in a bubble for their entire life, and they're always around the same type of people, the same socioeconomic standing, and in the same area. A lot of people don't even move from where they are. If you're from Chicago, you just stay in Chicago all your life. So I think that upbringing for me, having such a diverse background, really kind of helped kickstart that. And then obviously, 22 years in the Army, um, it's all walks of life coming together to accomplish a common goal.
Yeah, what as a Green Beret, your job, I'd love for you to explain to people exactly overall what Green Berets are done, but you're to go in and work with the locals to establish strength and confidence to defend themselves, correct?
Correct. The biggest thing that Green Berets do, our mission set, is unconventional warfare, and what we do is really force multipliers. So we'll go into an area, and train, assist, and advise. Let's say we go into like, you pick a city. So we'll pick Denver, for instance. We'll go into Denver, and let's say there's like a subset of people that live there that are trying to overthrow the government. They're being oppressed. It's like a socialist economy, like all these things, and they want to create change. So we basically will link up with the allies that align with the U.S. Ideology, I guess. Um, I don't know. I feel like, not to go off on a tangent, but I feel like our industrial military complex fucking runs our country. So what I'm saying is, in theory, is what it's supposed to be, but it's not always that way. But anyway, we basically would link up with rebels, if you will. Like in Star Wars, we are like the Jedis that link up with all these rebel fighters, and we help force multiply and train them, assist them, and then go out on missions with them. So we can help them, take control of their country, or help create a better life. Most of those means are through unconventional style of warfare. So we do have to be fluent in languages, really understand culture. A lot of times we're living directly with the community and with these people. So we really embrace, like the culture of the countries that we're in, and really try to get a different understanding versus guys who, don't spend that much time with the culture, and they're more of like a hammer, like I need something smashed. Those other operators will go in and smash it, whereas we will take our time and prep that. Another thing, a lot of things that we do is we help prep that battlefield and that battle space, and gather that intelligence, and create an environment so other units can come in and do direct action, and take out immediate threats.
So I had you explain that. So thank you for doing that, because when you look at your definition of greatness, inspire people next to you, you have them grow, create a team that functions. I mean, that's what you did for 22 years, just differently. So what I'd love, if you can, is share how people can, if there's some actual tactics and tips and suggestions that you've seen work on the battlefield, that people could use that in their own communities for good, to be able to inspire and bring people together.
Yeah. So when I started Work Party Movement, a lot of the messaging I wanted to go with, and things I wanted to talk about, was there was all this virtue signaling on social media about people just complain. Whatever your issue is, you could take everything from abortion to school choice to whatever your social complaint is, or what's going on, crime, it doesn't matter. And most of it's just people bitching. No one ever does anything. And at the same time, those same people that are complaining don't even know their neighbors. They don't know their neighbor's name. They don't speak to other people. They don't talk to strangers. They're not really involved in their community. And I wanted to send a message of, you need to be involved in your community and just be nice to people. Like, it's not hard, small things like, yeah, I'm wearing like the "Don't Be a Puto" shirt, because I started saying that all the time, because it's like, people are just putos. Like, you're just living in your own world and you don't care. You're the guy that's driving, not using cruise control, and you're just rolling between 65 and 95 in the fast lane, and you don't care. You're just doing you, instead of like getting over, let people pass, or you don't put your shopping cart away. Like, nothing, anything that affects other people, you don't care. You're just living in your own world. And I think that too many people do that instead of actually trying to consider how their actions affect others. And I think if you think about the actions that you take, how like the secondary and tertiary effects could affect others around you, and you just try to be a better in your community. And I always tell people to start small. You know, that old saying of "it takes a village to raise a child." I think that the saying really is it takes. We all need a village. We all need to be a part of a community and a part of a village. And where, you know, modern day society's gone wrong is we've created these massive cities that are too big to handle. So people are so far removed from like where things come from, where their food comes from, where clothes come from. Like they don't care. If it doesn't directly affect you in your house or you, then no one cares. You know, like people virtue signal about things, but they don't really care because it doesn't really affect them. So I think if you just look at it in a different perspective of like, hey, don't be a puto, like smile, be nice, say hello to people, you know, start your days off like that and see how it goes. And I guarantee you'll have a much better day and you'll probably meet some cool people just by saying, hello, how are you doing? Just in passing. It'll definitely change things. And then it allows you to go into maybe some of those social issues that you really are concerned about with social media or whatever, or your city or your town. It allows you to be able to be involved, because then you can, you know, you can start going to your kids' school and go to the board meetings and doing things. And I think that people just complain and they never take any action in a positive direction.
Or they're keyboard warriors.
Yeah, absolutely.
They get there, just, you know, say everything that they would say, but then if you ever encountered them on the sidewalk, they would never say the same thing.
No,
I have a feeling you say the same thing if you type it or if you saw somebody.
Yeah, I don't care. I'll slap shit out of anybody. Don't matter to me. Anybody can get it.
Yeah, and what's great though is what you shared is it's simple. It's not overly complicated. It's smile to somebody, say hello, put your shopping cart away, or just don't treat people that they're beneath you because they have a job bagging groceries or changing oil or, you know, roofing a house. You're not up there, and they're humans. They've chosen a path that they want to take, and we need them. And I love what you said, because that is truly, because people are going to come along in your pathway and we can learn from everyone.
Absolutely.
And if you look down on anybody, you lose the chance to learn from them. And I was talking to a buddy the other day, actually just yesterday, and he looks like he's homeless. And he said he was riding his bike on like this 200-mile ride or something, but he had a backpack on and he stopped at Burger King. This guy's like, "Hey, sir, I want to buy you food." And he's like, I think the guy thought I was homeless. He's like, "No, I'm good. I'll buy my own food." And he's like, "No, I seriously, I want to buy your food." He's like, it's trail karma. So that guy didn't think he was homeless. He saw his backpack and thought, here's an opportunity to help somebody who is probably a hiker and is on a path. I'm a hiker. And he's like, they sat down and had a wonderful conversation for like 45 minutes. They learned each other. And he's like, but if that guy had never come up to me and just did that simple random act of kindness, I wouldn't have had a good conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so when we think about it, when you were talking earlier, it's the importance of not forgetting history. And you've made some recent posts, and you talked about it a second ago about childhood and about the importance of getting outside. And I feel like I know it, we've moved so far away from the values that we used to have as humans. And because it's not just America that faces these problems. What are some of the things that you see that going outside and being outside can really benefit people?
Well, I think that as humans, we're rooted in nature, and we've created environments where we're just completely removed from it. And now we're almost to a place where unless you work in an industry that's outdoors or you live in a smaller town, being in the outdoors and understanding nature is a lost skill set. And it's also like something like upper middle class or like rich people do. like they can go to the mountains, they can buy all this gear, like to go hiking and do things. And I think that like, it's just such a crazy thought to me that that's where people automatically go, is they make it about like socioeconomic standing, or they make it about something. But the reality is, regardless of your race, your background, no matter what, like you are rooted in nature, and this is where we come from. And I think that people, the farther that we just get away and you never are outside in, even if you just can go to the park and let your kids play in the park or whatever. But I think it just as a whole, and I wouldn't say across the world, because, we look at all of our first world problems. And it's funny. Like I had a conversation with my brother the other day. We were just laughing at like Joe Rogan podcast. He's always talking about like how there's gonna be a microchip in your head. You can talk. And they're always talking about aliens and this craziest shit you can think of. And it's like Indian reservations don't have running water. Like the town of Jackson, Mississippi doesn't have clean water to drink. Like there's so many first world problems that we just put in forth, and we think that like we're gonna have this crazy expansion of all their shit. And it's like, no, there's still people on this earth that are deeply rooted in nature and hardships. And the farther you get away from that, the softer and softer you become as a society and as a human. So I think that, it's important for your kids to be outside to in like physical fitness and all these other things that we talk about. It's like, I think that it's just not important because our capitalistic greed as a country has really taken a hold of us. And, you can look at someplace like the city of Detroit, and how that was like this thriving mecca with blue collar workers and everything was going on there. And then all of a sudden, capitalistic greed says, well, we can manufacture vehicles cheaper if we move everything to Mexico. So they did. And now we have a city in the last, 40 years that have just turned upside down, and there's nothing in that city for them to do. So I think that's just an example of like how easy it is to let our greed and just get caught up in objects and things versus getting outside and just rooting yourself and being connected in nature. Another example is like our feet. A lot of people don't really realize like how much our feet have changed since we started wearing shoes all the time. Our toes are closer together. You don't have the same balance. Like you always have to be in the shoe. We create a lot of problems in our knees and our hips because we're not connected to the ground. We're not rooted from the ground up. So I think it's important to, regardless of what your access to nature is, to try to access that and enjoy it as much as possible.
And it goes back to values. Like what do you value and see? And that's when you, again, I go back to your definition of greatness, because it's so good, is that if you don't know your definition of greatness and you're not connected to it, then how do you know where you're headed? I mean, that's the challenge that I see so many people is they may talk about it and we could ask them what their definition of greatness is, but then when you look at their daily actions, it's not even close to being aligned to that.
Yeah, they're not pursuing that. There's no journey. A lot of people are just they're just part of the herd, man. They're just going along with what everybody else is doing, and they're not really on their own path trying to create and really be a part of a journey. I think they're just got their head down, and before you know it, you're 20, and then next thing you know, you're 40, and then you're 60, and like just time just flies by, and I think the most precious commodity we have is time. So, a lot of people don't understand that, and I think that they just don't pursue things and chase things because life is so easy right now. Life is so easy. You're not going to get buckets of water every day. There's just so many comforts that we have as a society that we take for granted. And there's a couple hundred miles away from you, wherever you live, there's people who still don't have that, even in our own country today. But we get caught up in the news cycle and the media and what's going on, and it's easy to do that versus really understanding like it just how easy you have it.
Yeah.
It's like I was listening to the news, and I guess there was like a big snowstorm. We're in a storm right now, but it's like people complain, and like it's weird, so weird to me. It's like you live in Montana, you live in Michigan, Yeah, there's ice storm. It's cold outside. Or like all these, it's like it's just so crazy to me the way people complain and don't understand the weather, and like it's winter. Like what are we talking about? Why is this a news story? Why are people dying? Like why is all this going on? Like, it's just because we're just not connected to anything until it literally punches us in the face, because we're just so oblivious. Life is so easy that we just don't care.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because it's like, what, winter snuck up on you? Like, oh my,
Yeah,
I didn't realize winter was here. It happens the same time every year.
every year. Yeah,
But I'm in Florida, and so it's going to be 90. And you hear people, and I was one of them. I was like, dude, it is so hot today. But I'm in Florida. I mean, what do you expect?
right.
I mean, you
Right.
have to have that realism. And I feel like it's such a great analogy for people on a pathway is, don't be surprised when that same thing that hits you all the time hits you again. It's like, how, like you said it a second ago, how are you going to be prepared? If you know winter's coming, what do you do? Like, how are you going to prepare yourself? So I want to shift over, because you've done so much good stuff recently, and I want to make sure that I give you time to share about War Party Movement. And so I'd love for you to talk to the audience about what that is and how you got it started, and how they can, more importantly, how they can help and support you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, growing up as a kid, my mother was obviously, being Native, but she was heavily involved in the Native community and really tried to help women in particular, whether it was get out of abusive relationships, provide food for them, take them to a shelter, whatever it was. And when I retired, I wanted to continue to do something that made to honor my mother and my father, but also just kind of get back into my roots and in the Native community and try to help. The MMIW issue, which is missing murdered Indigenous women, it's such an epidemic that most Americans don't know about, and the media doesn't talk about it. No one cares. So I wanted to like shed light on that, and then how could I help the community? So what I started doing is I started working, search and rescue efforts, kind of using my skill set as a Green Beret to assist families, try to find missing loved ones. Um, Doing that, I needed a way to help fund that. So I started War Party Movement, which is basically just an apparel company, and I used the funds to assist families in any way I could. Um, After doing that for a short period of time, I just kept running into the same thing. The same thing was like, we'd help a woman get removed from a situation, and then I'm calling these nonprofits to try to find a place to take her. Finally, get one, and most of these are just 30-day programs. So we take a woman, let's say she's from Nebraska, and we get her down to Mesa, Arizona at a safe house or a treatment facility or whatever it is. They're 30 days. And at the end of those 30 days, they have to leave, and they're not there during that 30 days, like looking for a job, like job seeking, improving anything. So what often happens is, one, it's already so hard to break the cycle of abuse for women who have experienced that. Um, And oftentimes, financial stability is one of the big factors. So, when you get your complete identity removed and you're in this abusive relationship and you leave that relationship, and my example is like, let's say you ride dirt bikes, your husband, that's all you guys do. Everything you post about on social media is riding dirt bikes, and this is everything people see you do. Is that's your identity? Is you're this badass like motocross chick, and then this whole time no one knows you're in the shadows and you're in an abusive relationship. You decide to leave that relationship. You finally get out, but your entire identity is connected to this man that you've been with. That's motocross. Every one of your friends, now they're all doubting you. Like, one of the big things that a lot of people don't know is abusers groom everyone around them the same way they groom their abuser. So oftentimes, someone's like, oh, there's no way Jeremiah beats his wife and this and that, if he's such a good person and all this stuff. But the reality is, it's like, no, I'm just grooming everyone else too. Like, I'm this good guy and I'm making my wife seem like she's crazy, and it's, all these things. So back to, removing a woman. She's in this 30-day program and that's it. So oftentimes, and I saw that like multiple times very early on in this work, that they would just go right back to where they came from or what they know, or they're right back to another abusive relationship or substance abuse or whatever it is. Um, so I was just kind of thinking, and what I love to do, just being a cowboy and being outdoors and being in nature. Um, she's like my long lost little sister. Her name is Micah Wysocki. She is the co-founder of War Party Ranch. Um, and she's my cowboy mentor. Like I spent 22 years in the Army. I'm not this like badass cowboy, like I'm learning, and that's my favorite thing about it. It's just a never ending journey. But she's my cowboy mentor. And with all that being said, I kind of asked her, I was like, hey, what do you think about, some of these other veteran programs that are working with veterans in this capacity with horsemanship and whatnot? Do you think that that's something that, we could do? So Micah and I basically started a cowgirl boot camp where we take female survivors of abuse. We bring them to the ranch in Colorado, put them through a 10-week boot camp training course to be a cowboy, and then we help them get jobs in agriculture. That is War Party Ranch. That is the 501c3 arm of War Party movement. I'm really glad we did it that way, and that kind of happened in that way, because I think if I would have tried to start a nonprofit and try to start War Party movement as a nonprofit, I might be kind of caught up in a different direction, like more and still involved in search and rescue, and which is good, and that's that's a necessary thing that needs to happen. But I think that the healing journey and actually breaking the cycle and giving them, no one thinks about aftercare. Everyone thinks about, you rescue someone from a situation, oh, everything's good. Well, no, it's not. Like, these women have went through trauma that they will carry for, if they're not healed and they don't get past that, like, they're going to pass that on to their kids. They're going to pass it on to their family. Like, I think the real definition of generational trauma isn't something that happened to your ancestors and now all of a sudden this weird guilt is on you. Like, no, I think generational trauma is like, your dad's a piece of shit. You don't have the example of what right looks like. So you're a piece of shit to your kids because you never had a good dad. And you just constantly kind of hand it down. And that's what generational trauma is, in my opinion.
No, I would agree 100%, just because of the example that you gave, is that so often we're programmed that way. Like you were talking about identity, and it can be in a multitude of different ways, and yours is an extreme. And so we all have to think about that as, what are you telling your kids? What are you programming them? What have you been programmed to say? And, a simple one that some people just overlook, it's just the way you are. Mm-hmm. And those, men that see how they treat women, they just think, well, that's just what we do. That's just who we are. That's, right. That's what our family tradition tends to be. It's the only way to really exert my manliness and my strength is to, be a bully, be physical, all these things that they don't realize that's the weakest example of a human on earth, is to be that way. And it takes somebody like you showing them that has the ability to do more physically to those people, and yet you still hold restraint. And that's like showing them the example of them thinking probably they would rather you punch them than to try to help them.
Yeah. Well, my favorite thing about, War Party Ranch and what we've created, kind of caveat on what you're saying, is we're showing them the example of what right looks like. And my favorite thing about, the people that are on the board, to include myself, it's like, so I had that joke about, I'm your mom's favorite cowboy. And what that really means is, I do want to be your mom's favorite cowboy. Like, I want your mom to like me. I want to show you the example of what right looks like. Every woman that I encounter, whether it's in passing in the grocery store or my friend, whether I'm a father figure, a big brother figure, whatever it is, I just want to be that example of what right looks like. And the coolest thing about War Party Ranch, and specifically about my co-founder Micah, is yes, she went through her own story and her own trauma as a woman in a domestic violence situation, but she is like the toughest fucking person I've ever met. You know, like it just super gritty, just this badass cowboy. And when women come to the program, they see um, they get an example of what right looks like, and they see something that is almost unattainable when you watch her ride, or you watch her swing a rope, or you watch her teach something. But over time, these girls are practicing these skill sets, and they're getting better and better and better. But they have this example of somebody to look up to at the entire time, and before you know it, now they're able to compare themselves, and they've literally learned a skill set that 99% of men in the country can't do. And like, how empowering is that to not only be taught that by a woman that when you first meet, um, you don't think you compare at all. For the time that you leave, you look at this skill set and how far you came in your own journey, and now it's like, oh, this is crazy. Like, I'm looking at my mentor, and I just want to continue to chase that and be like her and get better and better and better and better. um and I think that that is how, again, it's about who you inspire. So
Mhm.
the real intent behind this program is just like what I talked about, Micah, is that now one of these women, they'll go through the program, and when they leave, they're going to be a force multiplier. They're going to be that person eventually, if they keep working, they keep doing what they're doing, that other people are going to look up to. And even if it's not for their skill set of how well they ride, or how good they can rope, or how handy they are on the ranch, it is for their determination, their grit, and how they carry themselves. Um, and to show others that you can come from um, any given situation, and no matter what happened to you in the past, it's not the book, it's a chapter in the book. And you can continue to build on that and create better and better and better chapters, better versions of yourself as you grow as a human. And I think it's just so cool that we have like the most badass cowgirls to be able to teach them and show that. And it's not just a men that are around them. It's like, yeah, of course, Jeremiah can pick up that bale of hay and do this, right? Or of course, a man can do that. But to see women do it, to see, someone your own size, your own stature perform and outperform men too, outperform me and other cowboys that are around. And I think that is very inspirational and motivating, and also gives them some goals to look at. I think that is the coolest part of what we're creating with War Party Ranch, is a true force multipliers, people that go forward and continue to inspire based off the people that inspired them.
And it's changing generations to come. It's not repeating the cycle. These women are standing strong. It's not easy. Lots of work, like you said, takes a lot of time, but it requires people like yourself and your partner to be able to come in and say, look, we're here. We're not going anywhere. We're here for the long term because we want to see you be successful. And you said it again, you said it earlier, is that a lot of times people will come in, do that fun rush of helping somebody, but that's the easy part, is the first part. It's the walking with them through the downs, because you've probably seen it. There's probably a significant number of down days. And at the beginning, there's more downs than there are ups. And then as you continue to walk with them, then you get to see them blossom, into a new person. And that has to be, I can't imagine how rewarding that has to be for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the coolest thing is, in the program we've created, um, we've been working on this for a while. We work with some local women, had some trial and error, just kind of going back and forth on what works and what doesn't work. And but we're really excited because this year we're going to bring in two women for a full 10-week training program. And then Micah's actually created some really cool opportunities with paid internships. So I don't know if this will be every year, but the reason why we only took two, one was kind of funding. The other is, this is our first full course we're going to run. We want to make sure, we're not overwhelmed with more than we can handle, but we also were presented with really unique opportunities for paid internships, whether that's a month long or however long it is. But these women will come to us the middle of May. They'll graduate. Well, they'll complete with us at 10 weeks, August 1st, and then they'll go into a full month of paid internships working with other horse trainers and other ranchers and whatnot to really kind of hone in those skills and build a resume, but also get paid, while they're doing it. So we're really excited about this upcoming endeavor, starting, early this spring or late this spring, and then continuing through the summer.
Have you guys put any thought or any plans together of how to, the only thing I can think of as a business term is to scale it, to have it in, because again, your ranch is only one ranch. It can only take so many people, like you said a second ago. Have you thought about, or, what the opportunities would be to have other centers across the country?
To be honest, I think it was hard for me to first kind of swallow when I started working, cases and helping families. I wanted to help everybody. I spread myself too thin. I just had my hands in so many things. And I realized that, like, if I could help one person, if I could create real change in one person, that's fucking huge. And I look at that as I would rather stay small and be more influential and more impactful to people, and really create change than try to create kind of a half-assed business model or something that somebody like Micah doesn't necessarily have a lot of oversight on, to make sure that we're still, the back to the 30-day model at these safe houses. The real, yes, are these women going to be healed? Yes, are they going to be empowered and create a lot of moments in their life that are life-changing? Yes. The real instinct, though, is to create, to help them get a job, to create a completely new identity for them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet, for them to be able to say fuck you to everyone else, and really have this passionate job that they really care about, that they enjoy doing, that a lot of Americans nowadays don't necessarily really get the opportunity to do. So I think that if there is a way in the future we grow and we can still maintain that feeling and that aspect of it, then yes. But as for right now, even like in a 5-year plan that I'm looking at, I don't see trying to run another facility or do something somewhere else, unless, like I said, unless I think that would really be kind of on Micah. But I think unless somebody like Micah can, not somebody, if Micah can really have control of that, and she blesses off on the I don't want to say the product, because I don't want people to think that's what I'm calling these women, but the graduates,
process.
the
process,
like
the process.
Yeah, like I don't want them to be. We really want it to be where, when someone says they graduated from our course from the War Party Ranch, that, people in the agriculture industry know exactly what they're getting. They're getting a well-trained individual that's been through a lot, that has, a lot of grit, a lot of determination. They've been in the mountains, they've been in the plains, they worked at different places. They have a lot of experience in different aspects of the agriculture world, and they're getting a good hand. And I just don't want that to be tarnished in any way. I really want to build that name up, because that's really what's going to help us get these women a job,
Right. No, and that's a great point. And just the way you put it, I was thinking to myself is that, when you have an elite organization, they stay small to stay elite. They don't continue to just grow and grow. But my thought is there's so many people out there that need help. It's just a challenge of where do you stop?
There is. And I think that maybe there's a way, in the future where we can do, whether it's, some clinics or weekend courses or small kind of kick in the ass type of events for people to be inspired and move forward. Not everyone's at a different level. Not everyone needs a full recovery, program process. Some people just need a kick in the butt, and they're like, yeah, okay, I'm going on the wrong path, but this is the right one. Now I'm back on track. Right. So I think that there's probably a way to definitely, influence people in a positive direction. But as far as like that long term thing, I really look at us being pretty small for a long time, you know.
No, that's good. Because like you said, is if you can just help one or two people completely change the trajectory of their life, that's generational change. That changes everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how can, I'll have one more question after this one, but how can we support you in what you're doing?
Yeah. So the easiest way to support is to go the way. Obviously, we need monetary donations. You know, they can go to the website warpartyranch.org and they can make a tax deductible donation there. Um, I am personally racing in the Grand Traverse ski race. It's the biggest backcountry ski race in North America. It's 40 miles from Crested Butte to Aspen. I have a GoFundMe on my personal Instagram, which is just Jeremiah_Blackbeard. They can donate to the GoFundMe, all that goes. And then the other side of things is War Party Movement. We're basically kind of collapsing what War Party Movement used to be as far as search and rescue efforts and assisting in that way. And now all of the apparel sales go directly to help facilitate War Party Ranch. So all the profits, the profit from t-shirt sales, apparel sales, all go to support War Party Ranch. So those are the ways you can do that. And then as far as people listening to this podcast or you know, follow on social media, we will start to announce some things that we're doing. Once we go through the selection process of our students, we'll be asking for some donations, you know, because then I'll know their sizes and things like that. So really, we're going to lean on the community heavily. And I think, you know, times are tough financially for a lot of people. So sometimes monetary donations isn't in everyone's best interest, but maybe you got a brand new pair of cowboy boots sitting at home that don't really fit you, or you've got a nice winter jacket that, you know, that doesn't fit you anymore, or that somebody could use, you know. So there's different ways that people can donate, and we will be anybody who reaches out. It's funny, I got an old grandma sent me an email, reached out on the website, and she's making some quilts for the students for their bunks.
Oh,
You know,
cool.
so yeah, so it's just super cool. We're beyond grateful and blessed to have, you know, a community of people that want to support us. But I always tell people, you know, it's not necessarily about the monetary donations. Like, yes, we need that, you know, $5, $10, everything helps. But at the end of the day, you know, we're still going to need other things, you know, small equipment items and small things that people can donate. We should have kind of an equipment request list up on the website here once we solidify the selection process with the women for our applicants.
That's cool, man. No, I'll make sure that I'll put all the notes, everything in the show notes below. So that way, if people even look at them, I don't know how many people look at show notes, but they're there. The links will be there that will take you to all those places. But before go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say,
go.
you know, full disclosure to people, you know, our biggest expenses is, yes, horses are expensive and all that. And I'm not going to get in the weeds on and, you know, how we're acquiring them or what we're doing there. But for the course specifically, when we're running courses, our biggest expenses are fuel and feed. Feed for the horses, feed for the girls. You know, food for the girls to eat, feed for the horses to eat, and diesel is, you know, above $5 a gallon in most places. A lot of the course isn't necessarily all done in Colorado. We start out in California, we go up to Montana, Wyoming. We're kind of all over Colorado. So, so like I said, you know, monetarily, you know, that's where, you know, 90% of that money goes is straight to those expenses that are consumables, which are, you know, food and fuel.
Yeah. And of course, it's the most expensive it's ever been. So all of those things.
Absolutely.
Are insane.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like
We
eggs are
made
$8 a dozen. I mean,
yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Do you have your own chickens?
Not at the moment, we don't, but we will be doing that. We'll probably have like milk cows, chickens, some other things that out there, but we're kind of in the process of moving to a new location. So once we get set up there, we'll be able to start kind of growing and trying to be a little bit more self-sustaining as possible. And like I said, we've just been blessed, just outlining the course, some of the things these gals are going to do for the most part. It's all things that other ranchers have donated their time, their experience, their livestock, or for instance, the shooting instructor, like she's flying out from Vegas on her own dollar, bringing all her own guns, bringing all her own ammo. Like, I mean, it's so blessed, so mind blown, and just like the community of people that want to help these women. And I think that comes from most people don't understand this. When you really look at statistics of domestic violence, if your friends, your wife, your mother, people your sister, are open and in a place where they can tell their story, you're hard pressed to find someone that doesn't have a story versus someone who does have a story. I mean, the numbers are overwhelming on who's affected by this. So women in the community, badass women, like I was talking about our shooting instructor. There's just so many people who have their own story, who are in a good place now, who want to give back and pay it forward. And I think going back to what's your definition of greatness? It's inspiring others, So now we have these amazing people that are in a good place now and want to help. So we're so blessed for that,
That's awesome. Well, you wrapped it up how I wanted you to. I was going to ask you if you had people that you would leave them something with that would help them if they're on what they think their pathway to greatness, what would be some tips? And I think you just summarized it.
Yeah, I think don't think about yourself as much. Think about how your actions affect others. Think about how you can improve your community. Sometimes when you look inward, I think that it's easy to see how messy things are and get in your own brain and kind of get woe is me and feel sorry for yourself. But if you serve others and you do things for other people, you'll see the reward is 10 times what it is if you just do something for yourself. And that doesn't mean you can't kind of have a selfish why either, like I chase adventures and races and doing hard things and trying to do things because one, yeah, I have a lot of buddies that aren't here anymore that died in combat and I want to live for them. But it keeps me busy. It keeps my mind from drifting. It keeps me from feeling sorry for myself that I'm not doing enough or I'm not this or I'm not that because I am busy. I am trying to do things for others and help people who, whether they're less fortunate as me or they're just not in the same headspace I am. So I think that in itself, just staying focused, staying on that journey, staying on that path allows you to kind of almost put some blinders on and not necessarily let all those demons in and things kind of take control of you because the devil is always there. He's always going to try to jump on your back. He's going to try to weigh you down. So anything you can do to just keep looking forward, keep looking at that light at the end of the tunnel and just keep running towards it, and by doing that, by helping others, I think that is the best way to success on your own part.
I don't have anything to add. That was great, man. Well, Jeremiah, I really appreciate you spending time with me and sharing everything that you're doing, as well as all the real tactical things that people can take and apply it to their lives. So I greatly appreciate you for coming on today.
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
All right, brother.